So corporate startup, I know we talked about this like 3 episodes ago, but corporate startup, that seems like 2 contradicting terms. Can you explain that a little bit?
Yeah. So typically the way our industry works, and we have examples locally where a title insurance company, whether it be CW or Chicago or First American or Stewart, I mean, there's only a handful of them. They come in and they buy a local title company because they are the local talent and the local resource and the connection. And they say, hey, we're going to adopt you into our process. That's typically how it happens. My partners and I jumped ship from a competitor to start from scratch. And so with 0% market share on the real estate, on the residential real estate, because there was no one here doing it. And so that's why it's a little corporate startup, because while we are backed and supported and bring the resources of First American, we are operating our own little operation here in Whatcom County from ground up. So we started with a rental unit, and now we've worked to a place where we have a storefront. And then, next thing is growth and expansion with employees. We're hiring our first person.
That's exciting.
And so in that case, that's all on us. Like, hey, our overhead is what I work to cover. And so our overhead is obviously pays everyone as well. But that is where, hey, if you don't make overhead, we have to pay them back.
Yeah.
And so there is the sink or swim, because very quickly they're not afraid to pull away. And they've done it before. They've done it before in Whatcom County, where First American was here for a long time, a big presence. And then, like we talked about once, leadership matters. And when leadership disappeared, the ability to do business disappeared. And so First American left. They've done it before, all title companies. Once they come to a bottom line that they're like, can't let the market, whatever, shift, or the local guys pick it up, but it just doesn't make sense. And so that's why it's a little corporate startup, where we're starting from scratch, and they're like, okay, well, this is what the bottom line is, and you don't have anything to work with.
So it really is sink or swim.
Yeah, totally.
So can you tell us the story? First American?
Yeah,
Sorry,
First American title.
First American. Okay. They were in Whatcom County before, but they left. Can you tell us the story as to why that happened?
Sure. So First American, we'll go back a little. First American is the oldest title company in America.
Oh.
1800s. Chicago title comes from the big fire in Chicago City, where the city, courthouse burned down, or, the courthouse burned down, and everyone's like, who owns what land? Hey, maybe someone should be in charge of that. Right. And then when people started selling, they're like, but I own that land. And they're like, no, but the deed got lost in court.
Right.
At the courthouse. So Chicago title comes from the big Chicago fire. And so they've been around for a long time. And so historically, First American had an office, an operation, a market share, had employees here in Whatcom County. Until the attorney, the man leading the charge was like, hey, I'm going to be a practicing attorney, and I'm going to practice my own thing. And that created a management restructure, and management didn't thrive. And so some of those individuals now are working at the other 2 local companies, because leadership matters. And so that disintegrated their ability to do work here. And so they said, hey, we're going to close shop.
All right.
And they have always wanted to come back, but local talent matters a lot when you're in a relationship type, business capacity. Like, our revenue stream is only coming from real estate agents, from brokers, from lenders, and some from attorneys.
So out of curiosity then, why didn't First American take someone who is based somewhere where they're already more prominent? Michigan, I don't know. Take someone from Michigan, they say, hey, we got a new ground that we want you to break. You're going to go over to Northwest Washington. Get her done.
Good question, actually. Thank you for asking that. It starts with me. Yes, which is fun. So when I went from a title officer position at the competitor, I became a sales guy, and I've never done sales before in my life. And so they put me through a 6-month course. It was very intensive. It was very intense. Like, we will dictate what you do all the time. For you to succeed in this coaching program, you have to do what I tell you what to do, or you're going to get fired.
Oh.
And I'm like, what you got to do? And the bar was actually very low.
Okay.
To my standards. So I was like, oh, that's what I got to do? I'll meet that. Check. And so I, in 6 months, passed the course really well. And I was going through some medical issues and still I didn't lose momentum. And then I was put on a team, and like any team, hey, the people that have done the work, I had 2 coworkers on my other spot and they've done the work for so long that they have a book of business. Well, to put a third guy in, they have to take people from their book of business and say, let's give them these individuals. And again, the individual's already predetermined because that's how many licenses they are. So it's like, hey, these are your agents. And so I got a list of agents who don't do a lot of volume or don't use that title company. So they said, hey, these are unattainables. If you could win them over, that'll be great. These are people who aren't doing a lot. So if you could motivate them to do work, you get to win. So it was really like, hey, what you put in is what you get out. And I put in a whole lot and I got a whole lot out, enough to say, maybe there's another option. And again, leadership matters. I'm going to say that over and over and over again, because at my previous employer, the longtime 30-year manager who was a boss, she retired and moved to Hawaii. And so now it's like, who's the vacuum? The vacuum was someone not local. You know, they got replaced in infill from a different state. And so the vibe was a little different. There's more restructuring because that's where most of America is. I mean, there's a big secession issue in a lot of industries, ours included. And so there was a shift in my job description changed. Oh, excuse me. I was given an option and an opportunity to be a manager, but not in a capacity that I wanted to. And so once that changed and I saw some stuff and I was like, hey, what are the other options out there? And so when First American became an option, the conversation was with me and I was ready to be like, if I could talk to anyone in the county, because my book of business was like, hey, these are the only people you could talk to. But I'm like, but I want to talk to the people who do all the work. Well, the other guys, that's their business. So I can't really, there's like the respect. Well, I'm not here to poach clients from my teammates. So I said, hey, well, if I could call everyone and I have all the tools and resources that weren't available and there's all this value, I'll jump ship alone. But then as leadership kept changing, the conversation was like, well, what if we were able to bring an escrow closer? And that wasn't even on their radar because it is almost impossible to poach an escrow closer.
Really?
Yeah. Yeah. They typically switch from office to office. And they don't switch often because like my friend who went from back and forth, well, he's worth gold. And so the value of gold just rose up and you can't afford me anymore. So I'm going to jump over here and they're going to pay me my worth.
Right.
And it's a legitimate worth. And so that's typically how escrow works too. So for them to be like, hey, we're going to start from ground zero with who? And she was the busiest one in Chicago. And she's young and ambitious and structures her activities in a manner that suits and serves her clients. And so there are hours of the day that you are available for phone calls. And there's hours of the day that you are working. And so not everybody wants to do that.
Right.
And so that's where the separator is like, hey, if we jump and jump blindly with 2 feet, can we do it? And so we did. And that's where I was able to say, hey, let's do this, but we could have a greater impact if we bring an escrow closer. So from there, it was like, okay, let's do this. Let's just jump and do it and figure it out. Conversations went really quick because as leadership changed, the conversation and the value points that First American has, I was like, okay, this is a no-brainer.
So you had the skills, you had the ambition, and the stars were starting to kind of align. Mm-hmm. That's great.
Yeah, and timing is everything because we jumped with a lot of support from our coworkers.
Really?
Yes, because most of them recognize hard work. Most of them recognize my ability that I played as a title officer to communicate with their clients. Like they understood and respected the fact that when I was doing a sales job at my previous employer, when escrow asked for something, I got it done. And so for them, and in their age, they're all like, hey, we're looking at retirement and we wish we had the timing that you had because the timing doesn't come, it doesn't come all the time.
Right.
Like you give it another 5-6 years, you're going to have enough young talent that you're going to have to bolster that young talent and no one's going to be looking out. They're going to, once you replace all the people, you're set for And so that's where we're like, okay, if we're going to bring a new option, if we're going to strike out, if we're going to start calling people and try to win their business, we might as well do it at our prime. And so we did. We're like,
this is going to be the next 30 years.
And it was way more scarier for my escrow closer than for me.
Really?
She left 100 deals on the desk to go to 0.
Oh, yeah.
And 0 turns into 5, 10, and you're like, I need a whole lot more than 10. And then it's ramping up because the human that she is and the service she provides, people are like, okay, it's not, you could, even insurance anywhere or in any industry, even agents, they move from one office to another because they want the resources and tools they have to maximize. But the human is still the same human. And so people were like, hey, I want to close with this person. And now they want to close with this person because it's so much better and cheaper in situations. And the service and quality is predictable. So all those little things make us a little different. So we could create.
You said you guys started from like 0 market share 6 months ago.
Yep.
Where are you guys ballpark right now?
13. Yeah.
That's really good.
Yeah, it's really good. And it's encouraging for me because most of, loyalties are, we found out that there's a lot of loyalties to the other company because of history. Mm-hmm. So we have to make new loyalties, new something. So it's a lot of it falls on me to bring new business to Shay.